suicide. Don't misunderstand. I'm just telling you there are questions that still abound about this, and that nobody's looking into them. And I think that they should be. And I think now that the Post has done it, the other media, particularly in Washington, are going to be asked, why didn't you guys seem that curious about this? Why were you seemingly satisfied with the explanation that it was the Wall Street Journal editorial page? So now will this beget other investigations? I think people like Mike Kinsley are now going to get hold of forensic experts and say, hey, whatever happened with Foster is totally consistent with many suicides. And they're going to get people come forth and say, hey, I've had this many suicides and I've seen exactly these same conditions and so forth, which is fine. I don't think the thing was ever fully looked into, and if this causes that to happen, fine, because this is, guarantee if Foster were a Republican and if Clinton were a Republican, there would have been 50,000 congressional investigations into this, trying to find out what led to this kind of horrible end, the life of somebody who everybody seemed to love. All right, let's start in Atlanta on the phones. We'll go to Mike. Welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program. I'm glad you called, sir.
Hello, Rush. Greetings from the Super Bowl city.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting down there.
Well, there's lots of great things to do here. I hope you'll enjoy our great city.
I've been there before. I think it's a great city, and I'm looking forward to it.
Great. Well, it's a pleasure to talk with you, and I've been a listener for 3 or 4 years. Basically, I'm 46 years old, so I'm of the same generation as the president.
Right.
And you, and I went to college. I'm a draft debater, too. And, I protested the war in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So I understand, what that generation, what our generation is up to.
Oh, I do, too.
And I'm proud to say I do still wear blue jeans and T-shirts.
That's
much to your dismay, I'm sure.
That's not to my dismay. I don't condemn people who do wear blue jeans and T-shirts today. Jimmy Johnson wears blue jeans, I'll bet.
Well, that's probably true, being from Texas.
Yeah.
So I'm from Texas originally, so I can sort of pull for the Cowboys here this weekend. Basically, the reason I called is because I'm sort of tired of, the dead horse here. I mean, you're beating up on Clinton, and I think this is nothing more than the Republicans getting even for things going back as far as Nixon. I mean, now it's your turn, and I've listened to you for years, and I enjoy, from a professional standpoint, I appreciate your talent, and I think you're an effective communicator, and I admire your wit and your satire. I think your little musical parodies and whatnot, and little takeoff ads are great.
Thank you. But you're really upset that I seem to be very critical of the president.
Well, I just think that your talent may be better served in doing something a little more positive for the country. In the latest polls, I didn't see, white Watergate up there in the top 5, on CNN or whatever it was, of people's concerns.
Well, Mike, now you raise a good point. I should be more positive. I view what I'm doing here as the epitome of positive. I am doing what I think is the ultimate in positive. Now, it may not sound it if you just look at my criticism of Clinton in a negative context, but if you look at why I'm offering this criticism and what the things I'm worried about are, you will see that I am trying to maintain a positive outlook on the future for individual citizens in this country whose freedoms, self-reliance, and abilities to succeed are under attack, under assault, in essence. I also think that I have nothing to do with the Republican Party. You must understand.
All right, yeah, I understand.
That what I do, I have never. You talk about the polls. White Watergate wasn't in the top 5. I have never, throughout the entire 5-year history of this show, I've never looked at polls and said, "Ooh, the people care about X," and talked about X.
Right. I understand.
Never have done that.
Right, I understand your show is
and I realize
event-driven, right?
It is, and I may be running, and this is a huge event in the newspapers here in New York today, and I may be running a risk here, just as I was when I opposed Perot from the beginning. I never received more hate mail in my life than I did during the whole beginning months of the Perot campaign, because many of the Perot supporters were also people who listened to me. And I had several conferences with my broadcast partners who were very concerned that I was, in fact, running the audience off, that I was driving them away. But I've always said that I have got to stick here and stay rooted in my principles and talk about the things about which I'm really passionate, because that's why people listen.
Right.
And I do believe I'm going to say this. I can't say it any more bluntly than this. I think that the dominant media culture has made one of the gravest errors in its history in overlooking the basic character flaws of the man who is now president of the United States. I think the intentions and it's almost as though the mainstream press is, okay, he's president, and just because he's president, whatever he wants to do has a credibility of its own. And that it must be treated as though it is a legitimate possibility, a legitimate idea, a good idea, simply because it's being articulated by the President of the United States, whatever the idea is, be it health care, welfare reform, or what have you. I don't see nearly enough examination of the intricate details and motivations of this president and this administration by the media. That's what I am doing. I am trying to figure out who the man is, and it's very difficult to do that. I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to do, and it's not too hard to do that. It's the exact opposite of what he says. And a third thing I'm trying to do is alert people to what his motivations really are. Now, if this sounds negative, try to look at it as a positive. I'm sounding what I consider to be a warning. Now, if people don't want to hear it, as in your case, then there are always other options you can take. This by no means the only program on the air. And I'm not suggesting you don't listen, don't misunderstand, but I have to follow my heart, I have to follow my mind on these things, and I have to follow my instincts.
All right. Well, I think as I've gotten older, I've become more conservative, and I'm willing to listen to the Republicans. I'm willing to listen to Bob Dole. Newt Gingrich is, from
well, you
Georgia.
haven't asked me about them, but I'm saying they're all in trouble. The Republicans they've got their own mess that they're in here.
Oh, yeah.
And it I think, is typified by, what is it they stand for? But the Republicans right now have been reduced to, well, we disagree with that. We disagree with that. Well, no, you can't do that. That's what the Republicans have been reduced to right now, and it's a bad situation for them to be in, and it's perhaps unavoidable at this stage. Anyway, Mike, hang on a minute. I want to get your closing thoughts on my response to you, but I got to take a break first, so don't go away.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
Glidden announces the cure for cabin fever. The Fresh Start paint sale going on now at your participating Glidden retailer, where you can save on thousands of our brightest, freshest colors. Just the thing to bring a little spring to your home this winter. And because it's Glidden paint, you'll not only save money, you'll save time too. Because Glidden paints are made to cover the first time. Look for the Fresh Start paint sale now through January 30th at your participating Glidden retailer. Glidden, a better way to paint.
Do you know the U.S. Department of Education reported that 2/3 of high school students cannot read at their grade level? Do you know another study shows almost half of fourth graders lack basic reading skills? Where does your child stand? Call the National Right to Read Foundation, a nonprofit organization, for a simple 15-minute test you can give at home to evaluate your child's reading level. Is your child a reader or a statistic? Call 1-800-READING. 1-800-READING.
So, you've never heard of the National Anti-Vivisection Society? Oh, really? Well, join the crowd. Last year, more than 5 million people had never heard of the National Anti-Vivisection Society. So this year, the goal is to have everyone use it correctly in a sentence. For instance, you might practice saying, "Did you know that for years the National Anti-Vivisection Society has supported the use of alternatives to animals in research?" Are you writing this down? I hope so. Once you've mastered that sentence, tap someone on the shoulder and say, "Hi, did you know there are ways you can help end animal suffering with a free brochure from the National Anti-Vivisection Society at 1-800-888-6287. 1-800-888-6287. Isn't that easy? Of course it is. Now get out there and practice.
Mugu?
Yeah, Lloyd.
Listen, I have an idea that could radically advance civilization as we know it.
Hey, we're prehistoric men. Let's not get fancy.
Now, imagine this. We come back to the cave after a long day of berry gathering and woolly mammoth hunting.
Yeah.
We put our feet up on a rock and relax by a roaring fire.
Fire, what's that?
That's a hot burning thing we can use to cook.
The woolly mammoth?
No, the berries.
Where do we get this fire?
Well, we invent it. You see, all we need is some flint to make sparks, and they got loads of flint over in Thor's village.
No, we don't want to have to talk to them. They're old, a different color, they're bad dancers.
All right, we'll go to the Valley Valley of the Sophies. And
Women? You want to deal with women? They're not like us. Forget it.
hey, listen, if this fire thing works, we're talking big bucks.
Okay, maybe that new immigrant tribe has flint.
You want to talk to foreigners? Hey, I'd rather talk to the tribe that uses wheelchairs.
Okay, forget it. Fire is probably a stupid idea. Let's just eat our berries cold.
Oh, good. Pass the cream.
Where'd
okay?
you get that fire idea?
I heard some guys in the Worsley tribe talking
No
about it.
wonder. What do bald guys know?
The Leadership Conference Education Fund and the Advertising Council remind you that our strength, our progress depend on our diversity.
And back for our final moment of this hour to Atlanta, home of the Super Bowl. Mike, I have about 45 seconds here, but I wanted you to go ahead and respond to my response to you.
Okay, well, great. Well, I just real quickly, I just want to say that I think it's a hallmark of our country that people can have a dialogue and exchange ideas, and I think that's what this is all about. You know, we need to listen to each other, and I appreciate your contribution to that by allowing people to call in and express their opinions.
Thank you.
And also, the only thing I do agree with you was in your Playboy interview, and that was about nice guys, and I think you know what I mean. And if I could tell Bo off the air a couple places you ought to visit while
I'll put you on
here.
I'll put you on hold, and you're on hold now. He'll pick up the phone here in just a moment. He's not at the phone now. Just came back. In the meantime, don't go away, folks, because there's more right after this.
Each year, America spends more than $1 billion to repair and replace vandalized highway signs, and more than $15 million to clean up litter in national parks. Hi, I'm Linda Evans, National Spokesperson for Take Pride in America, a grassroots effort to preserve and enhance our nation's resources. With every act that damages our resources, we Americans steal from ourselves and rob our children of our country's beauty. To find out how to help, call 1-800-US-PROUD.
We all have our share of life's little problems. It could be a problem with a friend or a family member, or maybe even one related to your career. I'm Lee Maribal, and each weekday from 10 till noon, I take calls from listeners that have questions or problems probably similar to those you've had. I try to give advice to help you solve those problems, or at least help you take the first step. I hope you'll join me each weekday morning on Goldsboro's very own 1150 WGBR.
WGBR, Goldsboro's very own.
From ABC News, I'm Gary Nunn. A vaccine against chickenpox gets a thorough going over by the Food and Drug Administration today. An FDA advisory committee is hearing from Merck, the maker of Veravax, about its safety and effectiveness. Dr. Francis Mutier of Moorestown, New Jersey, says there's still a lot of unanswered questions about the vaccine.
The medical people are not quite sure how long the immunity will last with this vaccine. So will the vaccinated youngster need a booster at some later time, or will they be more prone to developing chickenpox or varicella infection at a later date? I think that still remains to be seen.
If the panel recommends approval, FDA must decide whether the vaccine should be licensed. Distribution of Veravax could not take place until after the federal experts issue guidelines for its use. A source close to Michael Jackson says police photos of the entertainer's genitals do not square with the description given cops by a 14-year-old boy who accused Jackson of sexually abusing him. The source tells Reuters News Service this is one reason that Jackson agreed earlier this week to settle the suit with the boy and his parents. One source in Portland, Oregon says that the walls are closing in on Tanya Harding in the Nancy Kerrigan attack case, but it's unclear whether or even if she will be arrested. Harding's ex-husband answered questions from authorities for several hours yesterday, maybe more today. There is a silver lining in the bout of bad weather that kept the population centers of the Midwest and the Northeast in the deep freeze for the past week or so. Reporter Tom McDonald of ABC affiliate WWDB Philadelphia found it.
All the trudging through snow, the cars sliding on ice, and the bad winter weather in general has caused many people to just give up and stay inside. And it's keeping them healthier and out of the doctor's office. The Pennsylvania Health Department reports a dramatic decrease in flu cases since the storm, and family doctor Francis Mentier says that's because of the lack of close contact.
The main means of transmission of influenza, the flu or cold and flu symptoms, are through person-to-person contact.
Of course, once the snow and ice melts, there'll still be a few weeks of the cold and flu season, so the doctor says he's staying prepared.
You're listening to ABC News.
Finding the perfect house begins with people like Allison Wood of Coldwell Banker, who found one for Jim Miller, who recommended Allison to Denise Cruz, who forgot Jim's birthday, but did remember to recommend Coldwell Banker to her doctor, who told the Hirschfelds after he told them they were having twins. Friends trust friends, and more than 9 out of 10 Coldwell Banker customers are so satisfied, they'd recommend us to their friends. It's a good sign when people recommend people. Coldwell Banker. Expect the best. Some offices independently owned and operated.
Now at the Sears Brand Central National Home Appliance Sale, pay nothing, not a zilt, zero until next April. Just use your Sears charge. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only. Ask for the delayed billing option and get what you want today. You'll have no billing, no finance charge, no payments, no nothing until April. Minimum purchase $200, APR 21%. Minimum finance charge 50 cents, both lower in some states. Regular credit terms apply after April 1st. See store for details. Now at the National Home Appliance Sale at Sears Brand Central.
An aftershock jolted and jostled the Los Angeles area about 40 minutes ago, 4.3 on the Richter scale by one account. ABC's Jane Platt felt it.
I heard a low rumble sort of under the earth and then felt the building start to shake as the aftershock slammed into it. Now, previous aftershocks have been one quick bam and they're over. This one seemed to rumble and rattle a bit longer.
The aftershock was centered about 2 miles west of Granada Hills in the San Fernando Valley. Philip Hyman, number 2 at the Justice Department, resigns as Deputy Attorney General. Janet Reno explains it is not the result of any policy or philosophical differences.
I think when you build a team, you've got to work together, and the chemistry we just do it differently.
Hyman, in a letter to the president, echoed that, saying their styles are just too divergent.
That is a judgment I share. I am therefore submitting to you my resignation as Deputy Attorney General, effective upon the selection and availability of my successor.
Neither Hyman nor Reno are specific about the differences. No word about a successor. Wall Street right now, the Dow Jones Industrials are up 2.26 at 3910.26. Volume 193,810,000 shares. Trading on Wall Street, heavy. This is ABC News.
Pip Printing has another offer that'll get your business a lot of free press. Come to Pip during January, order 1,000 or more carbonless business forms, and we'll give you 500 more free. Now that's the kind of free press your business can really use. So hurry to Pip and order 1,000 or more 2-part, 3-part, up to 6-part carbonless business forms and get 500 more free. Offer good for a limited time. Some restrictions apply. Call your participating Pip for complete details. Pip Printing, the best business printer in the business.
For the ABC Information Network, I'm Gary Nunn.
Nightly from 5 to 10, including Sunday, enjoy Eastern North Carolina's finest surf and turf buffet at Madison's on New Hope Road. All you can eat. And listen to these items available every night. Slowly roasted prime rib, char-grilled sirloin, Alaskan crab legs, steamed shrimp, fried fish, stuffed crabs, oysters, I could go on. 6 to 8 tasty vegetables, the largest salad bar in Wayne County, and there's even an all-you-can-eat dessert bar for $12.95 per person. Nightly at Madison's, New Hope Road, Goldsboro.
We expect lots of clouds with just some occasional light drizzle this afternoon. The heavier precipitation will likely hold off until later tonight or tomorrow. There could be a few patches of freezing drizzle early on this afternoon in the extreme north at Roxborough and Henderson. Temperatures this afternoon will range from 34 for highs at Henderson to about 45 in the southeast at Wallace. For tonight, clouds and drizzle this evening, then steadier rain moving in toward morning with temperatures climbing through the 40s. And for tomorrow, cloudy with periods of rain much of the day, highs 57 to 64.
And welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program, a benevolent dictatorship. A program driven not by topic, but rather a program driven by events. There is one thing about which this program revolves. What I think. Live it, learn it, love it.
This is a special edition of the Rush Limbaugh program.
Get used to it.
America held hostage.
No compromise.
And now, from our studios in New York City.
This is not about.
Here is Rush Limbaugh.
What you think. Nor is it about trying to find out what you think. Because, well, it sometimes is that. I will grant that. There are times where I'm curious as to what you think. Counting the days of the raw deal. Day 373 today for the poor and the middle class. Day 392 for the rich and the dead. 1,087 days left in this hostage crisis. Here's the phone number, 1-800-282-2882. Did you know that stress is now a murder weapon? I'll tell you, folks, it's just, we want to put opium in lollipops for 4-year-olds so that they'll calm down before surgery. At Florida A&M University, we are going to award scholarships to people who commit violent crime, get lousy grades, cause disciplinary problems, and basically don't even go to school at all. We're going to reward that kind of criminal behavior with scholarships at Florida A&M. Now we've got the Bobbitt syndrome taking hold out there, where women are shooting their husbands after watching the Bobbitt trial, or cutting off their penises after the Bobbitt trial. And now this. This is from Santa Ana, California. A 911 operator listened and taped as a woman cried, and this 79-year-old woman was raped at knife point. The 911 operator listened. Afterward, according to court records, she told hospital officials that she wished she was dead, and a month later she was. Now, the man who police say admitted raping her will be tried for murder. Prosecutors will argue that Jose Alonso Garcia, 20, not only raped Mary Ward, but stole her will to live. The trial began yesterday. If convicted of murder and 5 sexual assault charges, Garcia faces life in prison. Now, according to a coroner's report, Ward died from congenital heart failure and pneumonia. Lung cancer had spread through her body. Prosecutors are going to try to prove that the 1992 attack brought on depression and stress that worsened her health, contributing to her death. Garcia's lawyer, Leonard Gumlia, said the theory is voodoo. The whole case is just insanity. I guess this means that if a burglar steals a treasured heirloom and the owner becomes depressed and sad and later dies, that's murder too. So, now, the problem with reporting this to you is that we appear to be trivializing rape, and I'm not. I'm not trying to trivialize the trauma. Please, don't even think for a moment that I am. It's just now that you commit a crime against somebody and then they die a year or 2 or 3 later and say that they died because of what happened 2 to 3 years previous when they weren't dead. It's just incredible where we are headed in our legal judicial system. And here's another bastardization of the case. And we've got both Menendez brothers, juries ended up hung juries. Now, I got a story today that's absolutely incredible. Now, you women out there, some of you women wonder why I love stereotypical humor, and you wonder why it is that sometimes I am cynical about certain female emotions. Well, try this. See if this helps you to understand. Those hung juries in the Menendez brothers trial, could it be that some women on the juries just can't face putting these killers away for life? Lyle and Eric Menendez are a couple of surly, overprivileged young men who shotgunned their parents to speed up a $14 million inheritance. But women, including some of the women on their defense team, seem to be quite dotty over them. And there are women who are even breaking the law to help them. The brothers are forbidden from communicating with each other during the trial. But someone who had lunch with Dominic Dunn, who's covering the trial for Vanity Fair, the other day says the boys have gotten around the gag order. Dominic Dunn told a source here in the New York Post that Eric and Lyle Menendez each has a woman he calls every day. Then the 2 women put the boys in a conference call and they talk their heads off about evidence, alibis, strategy, or whatever. The brothers, of course, are relying on the newly voguish defense that they were the actual victims, a la Lorena Bobbitt, which I brought forth as a probable defense early on. You remember the old joke about the son who killed his parents and then threw himself on the mercy of the courts because he was an orphan? Well, the fact of the matter is that it is now theorized that some of the women on the juries love these guys. They're so cute. And they just don't have the heart to convict them. That's being reported. Now, you put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'd like to know if anybody believes that, but that is now being speculated upon widely by some who are trying to figure out how this can be. I mean, these two boys, let's not forget what happened here. They plugged their parents with 16 shots while their parents are watching television. Yeah, hung juries. We're not really sure they did it. And if they did do it, maybe they had a right to. Their parents were so mean to them. Yeah, they're watching television. It took 16 shots to do them in. I love this story, ladies and gentlemen. Republicans in the House Banking Committee plan to seek a hearing on the bailout of Madison Guaranty Savings and Loan as they seek answers about Clinton's involvement in Watergate. Representative Spencer Bacchus, Republican, Alabama, said the 20 committee Republicans sent a letter to Chairman Henry Gonzalez, D. Texas, asking him to hold a required hearing of the Resolution Trust Corporation, overseer of the S&L bailout. Bacchus said that the Republicans will then call witnesses to testify on Whitewater. The connection: Clinton and wife Hillary were partners in Whitewater with James McDougal and da-da-da-da-da. Now, they went and talked to Foley about this. Well, Congressman Foley, Speaker, what do you think about the investigation here of the S&Ls? Let's have a hearing, banking committee, find out what really went on. Foley said that he would reject the Republican attempts to call congressional hearings, saying, quote, there is no evidence of misconduct by the Clintons, unquote. Well, really? So now, all of a sudden, when Democrats are involved, no evidence means there's no reason to investigate. May I take you back? I know I've said this many times. Many of you are going to consider this to be redundant, but so be it. Sometimes repetition is what's necessary to drive the point home. Do you remember when some idiot, who was it? Gary Sick, a professor at some university here in New York, wrote a book. He had conclusive evidence that showed that George Bush was involved in collusion with the Iranians to make sure that they held those hostages during the 1980 election so as to hamper the re-election bid of Jimmy Carter. Remember that? Bush was in collusion. Now, he didn't have any evidence, but boy, he had a lot of circumstantial testimony. And they asked Tom Foley, who wanted to convene a congressional hearing, precisely because there was no evidence. Because the charges were so serious. The seriousness of the charges were such that we must investigate precisely because there is no evidence. I am not making this up, ladies and gentlemen. I get so frustrated hearing about how I'm partisan or how the Republicans are partisan. And if somebody is ever partisan, it is the Democratic leadership, specifically in the House of Representatives, and has been long before Tom Foley became Speaker. He's been part of the leadership for a while, but this goes back to Fort Worthless Jim Wright when he was the Speaker of the House. I mean, these guys have defined the most partisan man in Washington, may be George Mitchell, who is the Senate Majority Leader. We got to take a quick break, and afterwards we'll come back and resume your phone calls right after this. Don't
You're listening to the EIB Network.
My friends, the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well. Many listeners of this program are proving it every month. You know how? By starting their own Floor Coverings International franchise. They are becoming part of the fastest growing carpet retailer in history. Ranked #1 franchise in their category by Entrepreneur Magazine, FCI is revolutionizing the floor coverings industry by bringing samples directly to customers' homes and offices, which eliminates the overhead of a retail store. Now, why don't you join them? With FCI's support, you'll be in business for yourself, but not by yourself, and that's a key. There are opportunities available all over the country, and you can start realizing your dreams of independence for as little as $25,000. For information about an FCI franchise of your own, call Floor Coverings International at 800-DIAL-FCI. That's 1-800-DIAL-FCI.
If you're depending on plain old gas line antifreeze to get started this winter, that's okay. But if you look further down the road, you'll use STP gas treatment. Regular use helps prevent gas line freeze and helps keep your entire fuel system clean, responsive, dependable. After all, why get started when a dirty fuel system could make the road ahead rough? STP gas treatment. Drive a better car.
When you need insurance, here's the first thing you should do. Call your agents. They are people just like you.
I'm just starting out on my own. Is there a life insurance that I can fit into my budget?
No problem with Auto Owners 10-year level term insurance.
But doesn't term insurance cost more as I get older?
Not with Auto Owners 10-year level term. You pay the same amount every year for the first 10 years, and the protection amount stays the same too.
Who can I talk to find out more about 10-year level term?
Call your Auto Owners agents. They are people just like you.
For all of your insurance needs, see an agent you can depend on. You're no problem Auto Owners agent.
Give a call to the no problem people. Auto Owners, the no problem people.
Now at the Sears Brand Central National Home Appliance Sale, pay nothing, not a zilch zero until next April. Just use your Sears charge. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday only. Ask for the delayed billing option and get what you want today. You'll have no billing, no finance charge, no payments, no nothing until April. Minimum purchase $200, APR 21%. Minimum finance charge 50 cents, both lower in some states. Regular credit terms apply after April 1st. See store for details. Now at the National Home Appliance Sale at Sears Brand Central.
I would probably just get seasick in general, you know.
Now Henry Ronzaville of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, uses Marazine tablets and takes the sickness out of travel.
The Marazine. Medication that helps me cope with nausea and motion sickness.
Marazine contains a medically proven ingredient which won't cause all the marked drowsiness Dramamine may cause.
Got that pretty well with Marazine. It just enables you to go on in a more normal manner than you would otherwise.
Get Marazine tablets today and take the sickness out of your travel. Use only as directed.
WGBR.
By the way, as the program unfolds today, folks, we'll have these stories to discuss. We got a great the Congressional Black Caucus here is. I love it. Actually, they're opening their mouths and illustrating some actual ignorance of America and its way of life. I mean, where crime is concerned and where welfare is concerned. And also, you know, yesterday we learned that it is quite possible that the Clinton administration is going to send some Patriot missile batteries to South Korea. These, of course, are the missiles that did not work at all in Iraq and didn't have any success whatsoever. These are the missile system, by the way, that we ought to thank Dan Quayle for preserving, because he's the one guy who fought for it when he was senator. We're going to send these Patriot missiles over there to South Korea as a means of showing the North Koreans, go ahead, make our day. Launch those nuclear weapons and see what happens to them. Well, predictably, a liberal New York congressman has responded. A man by the name of Gary Ackerman. He says that sending Patriots will worsen tensions. So does a North Korean envoy, that if we send Patriots, it will worsen tension. When did we last hear this? When did we know? Not the Gulf War, maybe the Gulf War, but I mean, in terms of dealing with communists, what was the standard operating procedure, the SOP, the SOP? The SOP was, no, be nice. Do not do anything that threatens them. That will show them that we mean them harm. And that could destabilize the situation. We must not confront them at all. And that's what gave us years and years and years of a protracted conflict. And what was it, ladies and gentlemen, that finally brought the Soviet Union to its knees and ruined it and ended it? It was SDI, about a gazillion times more powerful than a Patriot missile battery. It was SDI, and if you disagree with me, then you're also disagreeing with Margaret Thatcher, and she was there. The way you deal with thugs, this is so typical. Don't make those criminals mad. Don't put them in jail. When we put them in jail, let's teach them things. Let's let them become bodybuilders and so forth. Oh, we mustn't make them mad. If you pursue criminals, well, you're only going to make them madder. We've got to just try to develop an understanding with them. BS. Barbara Streisand. If the Koreans are going to sit there and act all threatening with their nukes, then you got to respond in kind. The aggressor sets the rules. And so what? If the North Koreans say that sending Patriots will worsen tensions, then let's worsen tensions. The hell with the North Koreans, for crying out loud. And see, this is... you just wait. I want to see what happens now with this. Well, I'm not going to say anything. I just want to wait and see now what happens with the North Koreans having stated... Because here's Gary Ackerman. He says, expect a loud protest from the North. Well, what would you expect? You're in a war. Let's just assume you're in a war. And one side says, you know what? We're going to wipe you out. The other side says, oh, okay. No, the other side's going to say, no, you better not. And then you got some Democrats, oh, they're not willing to be wiped out. We better rethink this. They just don't get it. Ladies and gentlemen, they just don't get it. Here's Suzanne in Posen, Michigan. Hi, welcome to the Rush Limbaugh program.
Hi, Rush. Nice to talk to you again. I'm feeling like I really know you.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to comment on Jimmy Johnson. He said before the 49ers game on a radio show, I believe, he said, we will win. Put it in 3-inch type. We will win.
Mm-hmm.
He caught a lot of flack from that, especially from the CBS NFL show.
Yeah.
Terry Bradshaw. I mean, he really sounded like, I don't think these guys like Jimmy Johnson because he is confident. But I wouldn't want a coach saying, gee, I hope we win. You want this guy to be confident, and it makes his players confident. But I think they were really hard on him for saying that. And Jimmy Johnson also, after the game, backed down and says, I'm not going to say a word till the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I thought that was...
Well, here's why. Let me try to explain this to you. I can understand both sentiments, and I agree with you, but here's how that situation happened. Jimmy Johnson left practice, and he's driving home, or to get a pizza, I think, or something. And he's listening to our affiliate in the Dallas Metroplex, WBAP. They got a sports talk show. I think Dan Reeves, the coach of the Giants, is a guest. And during the conversation, they're speculating as to whether or not the 49ers are going to be so awesome because of what they did to the Giants that the Cowboys won't have a chance. So Jimmy Johnson picked up his cellular phone, called in, and said, you can put it in 3-inch type. We will win the game. And I was amazed as you were at the outcry. You're really right. Expressions of confidence just don't sit well with people because most people aren't that confident.
And what's even worse is that he was right.
Well,
I think that's what probably really made him mad.
After all, this is sports, and if you can't engage in this kind of repartee, and so this is what sports is all about. This was good for that weekend's game. This got ratings up. This increased interest in the game, which there was already quite a bit of interest in it. Dallas, San Francisco, it's a dream game. It's a made-in-heaven matchup. Now, here's where the rub comes in, though, and this is why, after the Dallas victory over 49ers, Jimmy Johnson said what he says. See, he realizes that when he says we will win the game, he can't play. He can't put on the pads and go out there as much as he might want to. He can't do it. So he is putting pressure on his players to back up his words. It's one thing when you start talking. And if you're going to back up your words, that's one thing. But when you depend on other people to do it, he was putting a lot of pressure on them. That's why he said, I'm not talking. You guys got me off the hook on this one, but I'm not saying another word till after the Super Bowl. It was a concession to his players. So he did luck out by winning the game. I'll tell you this, I think it helped psych out the 49ers.
I think so, too.
I think it kind of psyched them out. You just don't talk that way. And I think this expression of confidence, I know it personally. This is in my whole life. You go out there and you tell people what you're going to do, and then you do it. Ooh, they get mad at you for being confident you can do it in the first place. Then when you do it, they hate you. Yeah, nobody's supposed to be that sure of themselves. Nobody is supposed to know exactly what they think at all times. Nobody's supposed to be that confident. It's just not right. And then when you are, people just kind of react in a way that says, well, that's not good, it's not right, he shouldn't be that braggadocious, he should be a little bit more humble and da-da-da-da-da-da. But in sports, it's perfect. It's exactly what's called for.
Well, I thought they would probably love him a lot more if you were humble. And then when they lost, they can feel sorry for him and like him even more.
Well,
That's what seems like the coaches. Like Terry Bradshaw and those guys that were kind of slamming him for his remarks. I just felt that if he were a humble little man who just hoped that they would win, they would like him more.
Well, there are two schools of thought. I'll never forget there was a coach, Tom Landry was that way. Tom Landry, I'll never forget, and it's a little bitty incident. I don't even know why I remember this. I think it's because I'm just such a big football fan. But I remember, this has to go back to the 70s sometime. You remember there's a guy that used to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears named Neil Armstrong. And before he was the coach of the Chicago Bears, he was an assistant for Tom Landry. And I had to be in Dallas one weekend and had the traditional coaches TV shows before the games during the week. And there's Neil Armstrong. I guess he was a defensive coordinator or something. And he's talking about that week's upcoming opponent. And his line was, they are a fine opponent. We're expecting a fine effort from our fine opponent. They are a wonderful opponent. There's just that school of thought that you don't want to put anything up in the opposing team's bulletin board that's quotable that get them all psyched up. There are many schools of thought on how you should comport yourself, but what you do, you have to be yourself, and that's Jimmy Johnson clearly does that. Now, I didn't hear Bradshaw or anybody responding the way you say Bradshaw did, but and I'm not denying that he did, I'm just saying I didn't hear it. But my guess is Bradshaw, having been a player, his response to it probably based on the fact, hey, Jimmy, thanks for putting pressure on everybody. You don't have to go out there and play the game, pal. Now you're predicting the win. It's one thing for Joe Namath to do it. He's going to be the quarterback. You know, he's going to go out there, and the action is going to be from him. His words and action go together. That's the only thing I can think of that Bradshaw might have reacted negatively to. Guy, I love this. I love getting close to the Super Bowl and talking pigskin. Well, anyway, Suzanne, who you for? Very quickly, 10 seconds.
Oh, Cowboys. They're my team of my youth.
The team of your youth?
Yes, Staubach.
Okay. All right. We'll be back with more after this.
That's your horoscope?
Well, it says here to wear green to win, and I've been winning wearing green.
I also noticed you got Duracell batteries in your bingo computer. Is that also a superstition?
That's a fact. They last long.
You use a tester, huh?
I test them.
You leave nothing to chance?
No, sir. That's the reason I use Duracell.
Do you have any ideas why Duracell batteries last so long? What sign do you think the president of Duracell is?
A Scorpio.
Scorpio? Why?
Definitely. Because the Scorpio are the people who knows how to make good sense.
Duracell. No other battery lasts longer.
With the moon and maybe in Leo and Taurus.
This is WGBR News, Goldsboro's very own.
This is Wayne Alley. It took about 8 hours for 13 Wayne County fire departments and 3 departments from Wilson County to get a burning pile of tires covering the equivalent of a city block under control. They contained that fire about midnight and decided to let it burn out while firemen remained on the scene throughout the night. Seymour Johnson and Goldsboro fire departments helped battle that fire on property of Buck Newsom on Buck Newsom Road near the northern Wayne County line. Firemen said there was no damage from that fire and the cause is still undetermined. Congressman Martin Lancaster was pleased with the emphasis the president placed on making homes and streets safe from crime in delivering his State of the Union message.
With that emphasis on greater punishment and his endorsement of the 3 strikes and you're out concept, which I've co-sponsored, I have real hope that it will be enacted into law. Persons convicted of 3 violent offenses have no business being on the street. A life sentence without parole is too good for them.
Meanwhile, the congressman also was pleased that the president promoted his program of providing 100,000 police officers to deter the violence in our neighborhoods with his Cop on the Beat program.
This program will calm the fears of the elderly, the young, the vulnerable, and will help restore to peace-loving, law-abiding Americans their freedom to move about in their own communities that have been taken over by thugs.
Congressman Martin Lancaster. There was no agenda for today's joint meeting of the Wayne Board of Education and local legislators. They were expected to discuss a range of topics centered on funding. The Wayne area delegation that went to Washington yesterday and marched around the White House with placards in opposition to a proposed tax increase of 75 cents per pack of cigarettes were not there alone. Representatives of the American Cancer Society showed up and handed out leaflets that proposed a $2 per pack tax increase. The group got its best support from Senator Jesse Helms. Helms promised to continue his support of tobacco farmers. The point of argument continued to be that it's not fair to tax a single product to finance health care reform. Those who took part in the march and visited congressmen to plead their case included Representative Carolyn Russell and Wayne County Commissioner Andy Anderson. Keep Wayne County Beautiful Coordinator Caroline Parker and Downtown Goldsboro Development Director Meg Klutz are about to crank up the downtown cleanup. They'll start next week going door to door soliciting building owners and merchants to participate. Those who do participate will get a red apple decal in their windows. The weather forecast is next. For WGBR, I'm Wayne Alley.
We expect lots of clouds with just some occasional light drizzle this afternoon. The heavier precipitation will likely hold off until later tonight or tomorrow. There could be a few patches of freezing drizzle early on this afternoon in the extreme north at Roxboro and Henderson. Temperatures this afternoon will range from 34 for highs at Henderson to about 45 in the southeast at Wallace.